Hey Artemis, I was gonna, what is going on here exactly?
Huh? I was just getting ready to film a video. Thought I should make it, truly on brand. Paws and slippers. What's more Artemis than that?
Yeah, I'll give you that. This is pretty much you in a nutshell.
Oh god, yes. This is like my default setting right here.
So what is it we're going for then? What's the video today?
Oh, well I was gonna, boot up the old Doghouse series that I used to do, use it as a sort of excuse to do some smaller video ideas, give it a dusting off, bring it back out.
Oh, okay, nice. That was a fun little series for a while.
Yeah, it was, and it will be again. I would have kept at it, but my head just poof exploded with so many fucking ideas. I just had to make them. So.
Right. So what made you? Right. So. Right. So what made you want to give it another go now, exactly?
Well, I had some ideas that sort of fitted this format a little bit better, and I thought, why not just give them a go? Just do them all.
Sounds right then. So this is all just basically an experiment then, yeah?
No, of course not. No. This is more like a smaller platform for smaller videos that, could stand up on their own and be full length, but that would just mean I was stretching them out.
Oh yeah, you just hate stretching things out to be longer than they need to be, don't you?
Positively.
Cannot stand just wasting time and stretching shit out.
While I sit here listening to the world in which it actually does include the words that you have formed within your mind and then vocalized into verbal projections out through your mouth that then interact with my ears, it makes me begin to start thinking potentially about certain things that could have to do with the meaning that you wanted to imbue your vocal projections with. And as my understanding begins to complete over what it was exactly you were wishing to communicate with me, I find agreement burdening and erupting cleanly out of my mouth. Like, yes, I hate people just stretching shit out for no reason. Yeah, I hate people stretching things out. It's shitty.
Of course, naturally, obviously. So maybe stop stretching out the opener and just get to the first fucking segment already.
Oh, no, this is the first segment. Like, I've stretched out long enough now that it counts. Like, the next one, that's the second segment. See? We're getting through it quick. Good evening. My name's Artemis, and we apologise for interrupting your regularly scheduled football videos, but we have urgent updates regarding the COVID-19 situation. Just now, Boris Johnson addressed the country to update the entire nation on the current status of our plans with the COVID-19 crisis, detailing new efforts that reach new heights of Darwinian protocol of survival of the fittest. Johnson is reportedly in full support of the disease, and when faced with the facts and figures of the total death toll we might be facing as a nation, he reportedly was quoting Matthew McConaughey from The Wolf of Wall Street. Those are amateur numbers, you gotta get those numbers up. Meanwhile, British voters are in total disarray. While they staunchly stood their ground and declared that they knew exactly what they were voting for, it is pretty clear that they were not voting for this. During the same conference, the Health Secretary announced a new line of musical advice for the country to help them up their game when it comes to hygiene. This includes washing your hands for just as long as it takes to sing the national anthem, wiping your ass for the duration of the chorus of R.E.M's It's the End of the World as We Know It, and burying your head in the sand with your fingers in your ears going la 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 until the entire thing has blown over, as adopted by, of course, our wonderful leader. The true extent of the virus has not been fully felt, although certain businesses are taking steps to amend their practices in line with it. For instance, the National Lottery today announced that they will be rebranding some of their games. For instance, the Set for Life game, where you could win £10,000 a month for life, is set to be rebranded as the Shit for Life game, where instead of the £10,000 a month, you will be rewarded a 9-pack of Andrex every week. Market leaders are saying this is a pretty good deal on the consumer, as that is currently worth more than the £10,000. On to sports now, and there were many exciting fixtures in the world of organised athletics today, as we can surely see. Sweet. Okay, I've just had an update, and sports is now a thing of the past entirely. On to business now, and oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. And finally, we have just enough time to look at tomorrow's headlines. The Time leads with Boris might be trying to kill us, but at least he's not Corbyn. The Mail going for immigrant virus stealing the job of good British viruses. The Sun continuing their support of our beloved PM with let's get COVID-19 done. And The Guardian just simply reading fuck. And that is all we have time for. I've been Artemis, here to remind you to stop touching your fucking face. Thank you. Good night. Hello and welcome to a new little segment that I'm looking to kick off here called The Good Shit, where, I go through some decent books, films, TV, games, all of that kind of stuff to try and educate your asses on some of the really good shit that you might just be missing. And I thought that maybe we would start off with something a little bit darker, something that I don't tend to talk about too much. Just have a look at some fucking horror films that don't actually repeat all of the tired old tropes that you usually see these days. Now, I do love myself a good fucking horror film, which is kind of funny considering I used to shit myself over them. But those days are long gone, and I am always on the lookout for new and engaging horror films that don't follow the typical fucking copy and paste bullshit that we are always seeing in the cinemas. Now, all too often, most horror films are actually just thinly veiled thrillers with a central mystery and some supernatural jump scares to actually sell the horror, and honestly, they all kind of blur together and look the same with crappy creature design, and it's so fucking predictable. See, they all rely on musical scores and sound effects to really hit home with their scares, because they're not actually thematically horror films. They don't really do anything to make you scared, they just make you jump. Well, as luck would have it, I have some films in mind that actually do make you kind of shit yourself. So, yeah, let's go through them. Number one is Lake Mungo, which is a very bizarre kind of film because when you actually sit down and try and talk about what goes on in that film, there isn't really an awful lot that actually happens. It's an Australian mockumentary film based around the mystery of a girl who died and why she died, how she died, who she was as a person. Now, it does get a little bit Twin Peaksy in some respects, which, is always going to hit a fucking green flag with me, but what it really fucking nails beyond what I've seen a lot of films be able to do is get away with not actually showing an awful lot. A lot doesn't really happen on screen, but it still sucks you in. Now, what this film really nails is the atmosphere and the characterization. You do tend to look at these actors as if they are actually people. You can look at this mockumentary with a real sense of realism because they really, really did care about that sense of realism, and that draws you in even more. It's built like a lot of those sort of crappy documentaries and mystery things we used to watch, where it's like, oh, well, my daughter disappeared and what happened? Let's get Derek Acora on to see if we can find her in a graveyard. Yeah, there was a show that did that, by the way. That kind of thing. It really draws you in because it stops feeling like a film partway through and starts feeling like actual events that happened, which then sets you up for some real fucking invested horror. Give this one a go and you're going to end up getting really unnerved, which is great. This is the kind of film you're going to watch and you're going to start looking at the windows a bit. You're going to start noticing odd sounds. You're not really going to want to go upstairs in the dark on your own again, which is what really hits home as a true, proper horror film. Up next we have the Banshee chapter, which is much loved by myself. I have seen it a few times because it does have a very enduring mystery to it. It is part mockumentary, part found footage, but strangely enough, it kind of blurs the lines a little bit and then almost gives up on those themes partway through, but in a way that you don't really notice on the first viewing. You get sucked into the mystery, you get fully absorbed into what exactly is going on, and of course the tension that this film builds, that you kind of forget that it started off as one thing and then morphed into another. Following a mysterious radio frequency that seems to leave disappearing people in its wake, it follows our central protagonist trying to track down what is actually going on. It delves back into the past using themes that you can actually see in everyday life, and overall, it gives a great Lovecraftian feel to it. It gives a proper eldritch horror, which you don't see too often these days, which is actually kind of strange, considering he is one of the legends. It's another one that builds up the atmosphere and builds up the tension very well as well. It does use some jump scares to certain effect, and yeah, sometimes they're a little bit obviously coming, but it doesn't hang on them, it doesn't rely on them. It uses them chiefly to really send you straight into the level of fear that this film really does deserve. Give this one a watch. It's a little bit of a niche film, a little bit difficult to see and find, and I'm sure you probably haven't heard of it, but it is absolutely fucking fantastic. Up next, we got The Savage Land, which I rewatched just very recently, and what actually gave me the idea to talk about all of these kind of films, because this is a fucking masterpiece. Now, you will be noticing that I am talking about mockumentaries and found footage films, because I do believe they are the future of the genre. Horror films made in the traditional sense are now kind of overdone. Like, you always sort of know what you're going into when you go and sit down in the cinema to one of these films, and you kind of switch off from the horror and switch on for more of a thriller film. What's the mystery going to be? Oh, the music's ramping up. Jump scare. This film does not fucking do that. This film is intelligent. Savage Land follows well, I'm going to put it quite simply, a zombie plague that floods through a very tiny town, little border town between America and Mexico. And if you were to shoot that as a standard traditional film, it wouldn't really be all that scary. What this film does is it leaps it into reality. It makes it as if this was actually happening, that this is an investigative piece that is trying to figure out what actually happened from the one sole survivor. Now, what this film does, which is incredibly different, and honestly, didn't think it was going to work, but it really did. This film has no found footage. This film has no footage of the event. It doesn't have jump scares. It doesn't even really show you a massive amount, because this lone survivor didn't film everything that happened. He took photos. 36 photos. That's what the film shows you. You relive the events through witness accounts, through speculation of what must have happened, through character history, and decent, good old-fashioned fucking photos. And it's just masterful. The images they create are haunting. They will stick in your fucking head. The final fucking reveal of what happened in this town is just nightmarish. The horror that they get away with portraying without actually showing much, it's just impressive. Like, watching this film, it's terrifying, it's atmospheric, it's tense, it suckers you straight in and traps you there. And then you finish it and you try and logically look into it, and you can't even really piece together what exactly was so scary. Give this one a watch. It is a hidden gem, and I really hope to see more films that completely rewrite the rules on horror like this one has. And the final film I'm going to talk to you about today is another Australian film called The Tunnel, and this one really is like the evolution of a lot of different concepts that I've already touched upon. Again, it follows the mockumentary and found footage genre, but this one merges them pretty damn perfectly. It follows the story of, basically there's a water shortage in Australia, and there are underground reservoirs. The government's not using them. A news team wants to figure out why. They go down there, shit goes wrong. This film really fucking masterfully portrays a true sense of claustrophobia that just heightens the horror. If this shit was happening in a fucking mansion or an asylum, it wouldn't feel so bad. This shit is happening in an inescapable place, a real place that you could go to in the real world. And that's fucking shits you up. Once again, an enduring mystery that doesn't get stale. It gets away with showing you very little, but what it does show you is very effectual. The things that it does do and does give you really are used to their full potential in truly selling the horror, the unnerving aspect that you are always being watched, that you are being toyed with. And the whole fact that this is shot in first-person perspective, this is found footage that you are holding up to your face because it's all shot in darkness and that's where the torch is. That makes it feel like you're in the fucking thing. That really brings things into your face, and honestly, the first time watching this film was fucking hard because it was the first time I've seen a horror film that was actually scary. Give all of these films a go if you are a true fan of horror. Like, you might realise that a lot of the shit we see, like the fucking Nun and the Conjuring films, they're like modern day versions of Buffy. But if you actually want shit that's going to unnerve you, proper mysteries that you can really try and figure out, that are going to actually have some rewarding point to them, give these films a go. Cannot recommend them enough. And yes, there we go. That is the end of the first segment. Hopefully this good shit segment is here to stay, because I've got a lot I can talk about. Maybe leave some suggestions for the kind of TV shows, genres you would like me to talk about if I do another one of these.